All right. Who's ready to talk about American Horror Story with Naomi Grossman? We are. They are. They said they were. It's like you guys kind of are. I mean, it's like, maybe we are. I'll give you like this half clap, sort of. So, can we talk about American Horror Story with Naomi Grossman? Can we? Say yes. There we go. That's much better. Head on up there. It's all you, lady.
Hi, guys. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, turn her up just a little bit. She's on 5. There we go, it's fine. Okie doke. So, Miss Naomi Grossman, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got started acting, and then we'll talk about that television show after that.
What show could that be?
The Flash, I think.
Let's see. Hold on.
She has American Horror Story in her purse.
There you go.
It's amazing.
Let's see, my background. I grew up in Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
And growing up, my parents were always really great about exposing me to culture and art and music and theater and whatnot. So from a really young age, I just knew what I wanted to be. And got involved with children's theater and really just anything and everything there was to be had in that regard in Colorado. So, you know, regional commercials and Father Dowling mysteries. And, like, that's pretty much all there was.
And snow.
And snow.
And snow.
So, yeah, I mean, I got my SAG card on my 15th birthday. And, you know, when people would ask me, like, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was like, well, I'm already, like, kind of an actress.
I'm already kind of
I
doing
guess I'll
that.
just do that.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, there was just really never any question. I was an exchange student in high school. I went to Argentina. And I would say it's interesting. That was, like, the one year that I didn't pursue acting for like a year. I did something else, and it actually ended up being one of the best things I ever did for my career.
Oh, yeah?
Ultimately. Well, yeah. If you come by the table, I've got some of my one-woman shows there on DVD, and one of my shows was actually informed by that year. It's called Girl in Argentine Landscape, and it's a coming-of-age story. And yeah, all about that year. And ultimately, like, those shows and my other work, if you're familiar with the Groundlings at all, it's a comedy theater in Los Angeles. A lot of really big comedians came out of there. Kristen Wiig, Will Ferrell, Melissa McCarthy, Phil Hartman, Pee Wee Herman, I mean, everybody. So I spent some time there as well. And, you know, a lot of all this preparation sort of prepped me for what was to come, American Horror Story, of course. Although it didn't come right away.
Right.
You know, I was working in Hollywood, and when I say working, I mean without getting paid, for, gosh, I don't know, 20 years? You know, they say, like, an overnight success is actually, like, 7 to 10 years.
Right. It's
it's
like
even longer.
the folks who are in charge and handle Brad Pitt had his actual list wiped off of IMDb. Like, his first 7 years are not on IMDb. It's like Brad Pitt just showed up one day and was Brad Pitt. You don't get to know that Brad Pitt showed up one day as like extra number 4 in the background that never got to talk for like 5 years. It just doesn't happen that way.
Well, if you know how they did that, I would love to try some of my stuff from IMDb.
Okay.
It's not easy.
No, but I think you have to be Brad Pitt.
I think
to
so.
have that time,
I'll
yeah.
work on that.
Okay. Life goals. Life goals.
No, listen, last year, and even this year, last year I spent a couple of weeks as number 1. And actually, they awarded me, for those who don't know what we're talking about, IMDb is the Internet Movie Database.
Correct.
And it's sort of the industry standard for if you're trying to find somebody in the industry. You can tell I'm from Hollywood because it's like there's only one industry. But, you know, someone in entertainment, be it a director or writer, actor, whatever, you can look them up and that's what it'll pop up. And what we have on there is called a star meter, and it basically rates popularity, and it's generated by, you know, how much someone is Googled. So obviously, I've been Googled quite a bit. Sounds dirty.
You've been doing the Googling,
I've been around.
Naomi Grossman.
Yeah, and so obviously, like, the more you're Googled, the lower your number goes. So number one is basically the number one most Googled person in the world. And yeah, it was pretty crazy. I remember last year, like, Renee Zellweger changed her face.
A lot.
That was pretty hard to compete with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent some time at like number 3 after that. I was like, really? You had to do that? And then I got to number 1. And
nice.
actually, IMDb gave me a plaque. I was on the list of top 10 emergent stars or something like that. Yeah, it was really nice.
Emergent for the past 20 years.
Right. The slowest.
Thanks, IMDb.
Glacier pace.
I've been around before the internet. Thank you very much. Okay. So I think it's interesting that you have a background in comedy, and I can see how that sort of has worked into your role in American Horror Story, but obviously it's not a comedic show.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, in a way, it's genius casting, right? Because
which seems to be the case over and over and over and over again with that series.
Yeah.
Every time. Yeah.
Ulrich, Dawson, and Kritzer are the casting directors behind the show, and I mean, when you think about it, like, the role does require a lot of improv. You know, I'm kind of making it up as I go, and that's what they looked for and found. Often I've gotten the comment from, you know, directors and producers and whatnot who've seen the episode before the rest of us, and they'll say, "Oh, you're hilarious in tonight's episode," and I think, "Thank you," you know, because it's not a comedy.
Yeah, no.
And in fact, I've had hilarious genius lines that have been cut because they were too funny and, like, just weren't appropriate to the tone in that moment. Like, if people remember in Asylum, when I'm delivering the baby.
Oh, that's great.
Sorry, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert if you are here and have not watched American Horror Story.
I become an OBGYN.
It's Pepper's place.
I pop up in between, you know, the legs, and they see me, you know, and I pop up and I say, "She's crowning." Remember that? And then I say, "When I crowned, I shot out like a bullet." Anyway, it's hilarious because I'm a pinhead. Of course I would shoot out like a bullet. Like, how else, you know? But alas, it just wasn't appropriate to the moment. Yeah.
To the tone. How did you come into American Horror Story? What connection was it that you made that got you on that path?
I mean, I just had an audition like any other. You know, in Hollywood, the way it works is you've got an agent, and they get what they call a breakdown, which is something that comes over the internet, and it basically just says what every show is looking for. So in the case of Pepper, it was, you know, seeking 4 to 5 feet tall, possibly malformed, childlike actress.
Okie doke.
So, you know, I mean, I am petite, so I got that going. But, you know, malformed, what am I going to do? Like, stuff my arms in my
T-Rex
sleeves?
arms.
Like, there's only so much I can do, you know. I mean, if they want malformed, they're going to go for malformed.
Right.
But at the same time, I had the audition. Like, that's, in a lot of cases, like, the hardest part. Because they get hundreds of thousands of submissions, you know. So the fact that they only have, you know, 25 appointments and I got one means they were at least that serious, you know. It's kind of like Tinder. I got a right swipe or whatever.
Like,
you know what I mean?
Is this a left or a right?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Don't look for me on there, by the way.
Is she malformed enough for no? That's really cool because if any of you know anything about the movie industry, for roles like this, there's what is actually called central casting, and I'm sure central casting has thousands of people that could have fit that profile, you know.
Right. Well, central casting typically casts the extra roles.
Right.
So I doubt this came across their desk.
Okay.
This was pretty specialized. But yeah, they do, you know, they handled, I'm sure, a million of our carnies, and yeah, lots of freaks. But yeah, so basically, I went in knowing that's all I knew. Basically,
Right.
going in, I prepared a monologue of Jessica Lange's from season 1, which was a little curious because that had already been shot and seen on TV, so I knew that wasn't the role, so I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did it. And then they also gave me a ball, and they asked me to, as if I were a child, they wanted me to try to get them to play with me. So again, for folks who've seen the show, now we know what they were trying to do.
Right.
Without giving it away, they didn't want to actually out, oh yeah, you're a pinhead. That came way later. That wasn't until well after I was cast did I get that little tiny nugget of news. All I had was, clearly they needed to see that I had range. That I could go from the playful, youthful, naive, early Pepper to the later alien abducted, evolved Pepper.
Right.
So, they have a good enough imagination to see, if I can be a 4-year-old, then I can be a microcephalic. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then that was just the audition. And then the actual callback was actually a meeting with makeup, where they took a bunch of photos of me, which they then manipulated to see what I would look like as the character, which is really interesting. Again, I had no idea what I was coming in for. But apparently, they had a few gals in that they knew could handle the demands of the role. And I guess my bridge of my nose looked best. It's a story that I like to tell for, any aspiring actors, because, we're notorious for, driving home, damn it, if only if I'd said it this way, or if I'd done that. And often, it's not even about that. It could be the bridge of your nose, you know? So, and yet it changed my life.
Exactly.
I'll never get a nose job.
Not now.
Never.
What was it like in that second season after season 1 had been such a big success? Because season 1, I personally think FX is one of the best networks on television. They're just killing it right now with all their programming. But season 1 really caught everyone unawares. How do you follow that up?
Right.
Take it to an insane asylum. That's how you do it. So what was it like from your standpoint, having that knowledge of season 1 going into season 2?
Well, believe it or not, I hadn't seen season 1 when I got the role. So obviously that was my first job, to watch that. And let me tell you, I mean, I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. I just binged it, and it was I hadn't felt so crappy. I mean, I was obviously elated, but I wasn't sleeping for 2 weeks. You know how it feels. But obviously I was overwhelmed. I mean, Jessica Lange is just such a force in that show. And then all of a sudden to be faced with her,
Yes.
like this, it was really thrilling. Although, of course, the show didn't actually prepare me much for Asylum because they are so different. So, they keep us quite in the dark. Like I said, I didn't know what the role was until well after I'd gotten it. I wasn't, they shaved my head, and I couldn't I couldn't tell. Basically, they got me a wig, and I would just walk around for basically a year of my life. I went around with a wig on. Mostly because, they kept that little hair piece.
Yeah.
Just sort of unsightly. So,
unless that's what you're going for in your everyday life.
I suppose. I mean, there's those man buns that are just halfway there, but they came after. But I mean, you can imagine, I'm trying to, get through the rest of my life, not explain why I've gone from this conservative bob that I've had my whole life into this little Hare Krishna pigtail.
Exactly.
It's kind of difficult, especially because while I am an actress, let's face it, we all have day jobs and whatnot. You gotta supplement.
Right.
At the time, I was a Spanish teacher. Another one of the things that Argentina helped me for. But
nice.
Again, try walking into your classroom and explain why you did that.
Right.
You know,
to anyone. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Too much tequila. No.
But you know, they would on set. They would actually transport me from the makeup trailer to set, like with basically a burqa on. Like I'd wear a big old black sheet over my head, and they'd wheel me around on a golf cart. I remember thinking to myself, "Wow, it's like I'm Lady Gaga or something." You know what I mean? Like no one must know. Little did I know, Lady Gaga would be like
literal
taking
Lady
my place
Gaga.
later.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's funny that they even kept you guys so in the dark about what you were doing. Obviously, you had no way of knowing that it was all connected.
No, not at all. I don't even think they did.
Right.
Yeah. For example, I mean, there's two parts of that question.
Right.
I mean, they kept us so in the dark that, like, for Asylum, for example, I only got the sides, that is, the scenes, that I was in. So, I mean, you can imagine, like, for those who've seen Asylum, like, Pepper says, like, a syllable an episode.
Right,
You know?
right.
So, basically, my scripts were like, you know,
Here's some
here's
paper.
my script, you know? So, I
Show
had
up.
no idea what was going on. I mean, on a given day, it would be like, rats. That's all I got. That's all I
Right.
know, you know? And, I remember at one point while we were shooting, I actually was in New York doing one of my one-woman shows and getting word, we need you back. We're stuffing the script under your, you know, we're putting the script under your door. Because they're that secretive, they wouldn't even email it. So I had to get one of my neighbors to, you know, break into my place and tell me, what do I do? What do I say? Like, I mean, because if it's intensive, then I need to know. I need to prepare with anticipation. And of course, my neighbor's like, Pepper goes pee. So I was like, great, okay, well,
I think we got that
I
down,
got
Pat.
it.
Yeah.
I'm off book. I'm that quick. But yeah, I mean, like when Pepper went pee, I didn't even know where I'd gone. Like I assumed maybe I had to poo too. Like I didn't know why. It wasn't that big of a deal. No, but I mean, I didn't know why. Like was just gone for 4 episodes. Like
Right.
what happened? I actually thought that maybe I screwed up and they wrote me out. I didn't know. So then when it started airing and people are like, what happened? Where did Pepper go? I was like, I honestly don't know. And so, you know, that scene when I come back and I'm reading Dr. Arden, the Riot Act, I mean, that was a huge shock. And then to come back 2 seasons later or a season later, I mean, it was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I mean, by season 4, they started to give me whole scripts. So that was nice. I knew I'd, you know, arrived. But even then, I didn't actually know that Salty was my husband until episode 10.
Oh my gosh.
So you can imagine, like, 12 hours before I am to, you know, like, lie on his dead body, you know, in spontaneous tears, did I even know we were married? Like,
oh my gosh.
I mean, honestly, I probably would have played the whole thing differently. But what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, ultimately, the writers didn't throw me under the bus by any means. Like, they justified it all. They said, point blank in the episode, like, their love transcended sex. So that's good, because
it was one of the best moments in the entire season.
Oh, thank you.
It really was good. I know. I enjoyed it as
too.
well. Thanks, guys. Power to the players. Okay. So.
Oh wait, we were gonna stop. We were talking about something else though.
Yeah, what we're talking about.
Being secretive.
You didn't know that it was connected.
Oh, connection.
Yeah, right.
So here's the thing. The reason why I don't think they even knew to do that, here's my theory, and I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way. I think they didn't realize that, you know, you don't know what's gonna work, what's gonna hit. You know what I mean? Like if you look at that day room of Asylum for the first time, and believe me, I was there. Like Ryan Murphy did a little turn around the room, saw all the weird, all the crazies, all the loonies, and he actually came right up to me and he pointed at me and said, "Pepper's the best." And he wasn't even talking to me, although I appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know,
thanks,
he's talking to his team, like, I like this one. Yeah. You know? And I think then the audience, obviously, he also is listening to what the audience says.
Right.
So the fact that the internet blue. And
Yeah.
I mean, the Pepper for President posters and the Pepper tattoos and all the gifts, and I mean, it was crazy. So, they're paying attention to that, and that's why I think by the time, they realized what a cash cow they had on their hands, they'd already killed her off.
Yeah.
Not on screen, which is awesome, actually. Even though every actor wants an on-screen death, that was actually kind of a coup for me. But ultimately, I think that's when they realized, oh wait, we had this little gem in this little freak. What if we made Freak Show? Again, I don't know that. I shouldn't say Pepper inspired Freak Show. I have no idea. But it does make sense when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
And then of course, when I was actually, when they brought me then to New Orleans where we shot Freak Show, and they'd said, you're going to be Pepper, which I thought was crazy because it was the first time we'd ever seen that. I remember being in the makeup trailer, and Ryan Murphy was actually there with me, and he actually said to me, so are you Pepper, or, and I was just like,
you tell me, man. This is your thing, not mine.
Exactly. Yeah. But let's definitely decide this right now, because they're coming at me with shears.
Yeah.
And I just assume keep my hair.
Yeah.
So, but if you'll notice, actually, in the first couple episodes of Freak Show, they never call me by name.
Right.
They always refer to us as the humorous pinheads.
Uh-huh.
And I think the idea is, honestly, I think they were nervous about the Emmys. We're in the miniseries category.
Which is dumb, to be really honest.
It's kind of smart.
Do you think so?
Yes, because I think that, listen, this show would also clean up in the drama category.
Yes, ma'am.
And if I had my way, I'd clean up in the comedy too. But I think, ultimately in the miniseries category, there's less competition.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But anyway, I think they were concerned that this would potentially, what that would do, if we connected the seasons. And then, I was just sort of one of the humorous pinheads. And then, but obviously, on the call sheets and whatnot, which were of course private, or should have been, I was named Pepper because I need a name, and besides, I am Pepper. And then I remember the call sheets were leaked somehow, and I have no idea to this day how that happened. But I think it was ultimately then when it came out that they were connected. It was such a great response. Everybody was so excited that they were like, all right, well, let's go with it. So that's how I think it went.
That makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's sort of what BuzzFeed came up with at some point. I remember seeing the BuzzFeed article about it. I was like, wait a minute. American Horror Story is all connected. And then, of course, everybody was like, Brian Murphy's a genius. He planned this from day one. And it just works. I mean, it's possible, but it just works.
Well, and it was so organic,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you don't write a show like that and have, season 8 already planned out. Because you don't know if it's going to hit after season 1 or not, because it is so different. But then you can, get Lady Gaga to be on your TV show so you can do whatever you want at that point. Let's do some questions. Who has some questions? Raise your hand if you have questions. Questions. We answer all your questions. Oh,
this is
here
one
we
of
go.
our carnies.
Here you go.
What was it like working with the carnies?
Said the carny. Well, there was one in particular. This Baldy was no.
He was so cute.
We had such a great group. Truly, I mean, from the A-listers to the actual freaks to the carnies. Everybody was such a there's usually at least one kind of weak link or weirdo or psychopath, and there wasn't.
No, it all works really well.
I remember, I'm going to take it down a notch. I don't know if people remember, this is just to illustrate my point, but I don't know if people have heard this morning, Rose Siggins died today, this morning. She played Legless Susie.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I got the news actually as I was pulling up here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's horrible. It was just complications after a surgery. But and in fact, if she's survived by 2 children, one is I think 9 or 10, and the other's about 16. So if you're, inclined to help them, that's got to be rough for little kids. In any case, I do remember we were talking about being so, having such a great cast and being so supportive. I remember one time going to visit Rose in the hospital, because you can imagine what kind of, she's obviously been living with complications her whole life. She, at the age of 2, had her legs amputated, so she's been kind of like a torso on a skateboard, her whole life. It's got to be rough. But I remember going to see her in the hospital after a surgery while we were in New Orleans, and I'll never forget walking in and seeing her there on the bed, and there was Jessica Lange and Sarah Paulson. And I remember being like, wow, like, what a room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got Oscar, Emmy, like, multi-time winner. You've got Emmy nominee, Rose, who up until this point had been an auto mechanic.
Oh, wow.
Right? You can, from Pueblo, Colorado, and in a way, it's like it's a perfect job for her, because let's face it, she's already down there. Fix the car, come right down, But and then of course me. So just like the range from Jessica to Rose, and somehow I got in there too. It's just like, wow, and we're all just love each other. Like, none of that matters, like where you came from or what you've done or what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Question. Anybody have a question? Here we go.
I was wondering how you came up with Pepper's mannerisms. Did you watch any source material with people suffering from that condition, or were they kind of something that you generated yourself?
Okay, if I heard that.
She wants to know how you came up with Pepper's mannerisms. Like, did you watch source material? Is it something you came up with on your own?
Okay.
Or?
Yes, if you've watched the movie Freaks, Todd Browning's 1933 film, there's a character in it. Actually, he's an actual man named Schlitzie, and he was a real-life microcephalic. Microcephalia is a neurological disorder, birth defect, which it basically means that, like, a brain capacity of about a 4-year-old. So typically these people were kind of like farmed out to freak shows, just like in the show. And he would go along to these freak shows, and they put him in a dress because it was just easier for bathroom purposes. That was his life, and actually his passion. He loved being up on stage for everybody. But anyway, that's what the role was modeled after. So that was my homework, to basically do Schlitzie.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of beautiful in a way. It's such simple direction. Like, that's all I got, honestly, for the entire 2 years that I did the role. It was like, just do Schlitzie. So as long as I was being authentic to Schlitzie, I knew I was doing my job.
Nice. Questions? Here we go.
How long would it take for them to make you Pepper, and did it take as long to take it off?
Oh, right. Good question. The makeup took 2.5 to 3 hours. Although, if you come by the table, I've got a picture of me, actually, of naked Pepper. That is Pepper in the, if you remember the Freak Show episode 1, there's the Freak Orgy, and they had a full body, like, prosthetic for me. So you can actually see me with, like, man boobs and, like, hairy chest. It's disgusting. It's there.
So buy that.
That took
Yes.
6 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Then to take it off is quick. It's like 20 minutes. The trick was finding their seam, because that's the thing. The Pepper makeup was so hard because it was like, it's real. Like doing a zombie, no offense to The Walking Dead, like the makeup department's won their Emmys. But listen, whether or not zombies are real, we're not going to get into that. But, you know, at the same time, we can't, like, it's not like we can compare them to, like, oh, the real zombies. You know what I mean? Whereas,
Right.
like, you can look at Pepper makeup versus Schlitzie, and it's like, one is actually, like, a real person, and the other is just makeup. So they needed to make it real. And literally, like, you couldn't see the seams, and not even they could find the seams, and they put them on. So it was pretty incredible, especially the full body. I mean, in order to do that, I had to stand in like just a big thing of plaster. Like imagine I'm like topless with like a bunch of dudes around, and I'm just like, don't move, for about 20 minutes, and then you step out of it, and from that, they actually, you know, they've got my chest. So my torso is in some, you know, garage in San Fernando Valley somewhere. But on it, they were actually able to like build this prosthetic chest, which basically goes from all the way up here down to like panty line. And which is basically where they, you know, put my diaper. But it was wild. I remember being out on set one day wearing that, and one of the producers said, "Get Pepper a robe. What'd she do?" You know, she's naked. And I was like, I'm actually not. Like, I'm wearing more clothes than I would wear to the beach. Like, I'm fully covered. I'm not. It's not. These aren't my boobs.
This is not my hair. Thanks a lot, jerk.
Right. Not my nose, not my hand.
Questions? You have a question? Do you think we'll see Pepper again? Maybe.
I don't personally think so, only because we've been there, done that. Like, I feel like we be pushing it. It's like wanting lightning to strike 3 times. Like, it
Right.
already happened twice. That's insane. I also just feel like they wrap the storyline up so well that they haven't really left a whole lot of leeway. Yeah, I mean, like, where, like, was she just going to be like checking into the hotel? You know, I don't see that.
That would be funny, though.
But then again, I mean, Ryan often says that he doesn't like to do the same thing twice, and let's face it, he has done that. But at the same time, he's also said that he just likes to surprise us, and so
Right.
that is the last thing we're expecting. So who knows, honestly.
That's why the show works so well, I
Yeah.
think. You just don't know what you're going to get with every season. What's been your favorite season so far?
My favorite season was Freak Show, and that was on many levels. Number one, New Orleans is way more interesting than Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly. I live in LA, but I love New Orleans. Also, I think, you know, it's just more fun. Like, being on location is exciting. Because, you know, let's say, I mean, with Freak Show, you know, I was basically like, I'd drive across town in traffic,
Right.
you know, check in and out, click, you know, what do you call that? Clock in and out. We don't really clock in, but, you know,
Yeah.
same idea. And then I go back to teaching Spanish. So, whereas with Freak Show, it was like, I'm here. There's like really nothing else for me. I'm just, you know, I was just kind of like displaced from my life into this wild freak world. And, you know, we basically lived in this like freak dorm, and you got Dandy next door and Amazon Eve's cooking tonight. And it was just like a fun, familial feel. Of course, my role was also so much better, which helps as well. But also I think I appreciate it more just on a human level. I mean, we did become a family, and just the story. I mean, just the characters involved. I mean, a lot of them were the same, or not characters, but rather actors. So, you know, I loved everybody in Asylum as well. But I mean, just the message that Freak Show gave with the whole like we are all freaks, and I mean, it's something that I really respond to, and I love that like human element of it, which I think is sort of, you know, missing from the other seasons.
And it worked on a lot of levels, I think, for people as a whole. You know, the first half of the season, John Carroll Lynch was just terrifying and wonderful. And then the second half was a totally different kind of horror. It was amazing. That was probably my favorite season as well. Where can people find you on the internets, online?
I'm on all the usual suspect sources. Twitter, I'm Naomi W. Grossman. You'll know it's me. I'm verified. I've got a Facebook page, of course. You can like me. The YouTube, Instagram. I'm not hard to find.
Has anyone done a Pepper Twitter account? I'd not thought about that.
Yes.
Is it annoying? I'm sure.
No.
Okay.
It's all good. Love for Pepper is love for me, ultimately.
That's true.
Actually, there are, one of them is me, actually, because I knew that it was going to blow up. So I did create one, but I don't tweet from that because I don't. She died in '66. Like, it's not.
She's been gone.
Well, and I kind of feel like it was fun while the show was on the air because I could, early on I would tweet stupid stuff like, pull my finger or whatever.
Right.
And then actually when I got abducted, I started like tweeting in other languages, and I was, I was really having fun with it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I mean, let's face it, this is Ryan Murphy's character. I mean, he created her. I mean, we created her, right? But so it's not really fair for me to give her words.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I like to be respectful in that way.
Cool. Make sure you go by and check out Naomi at her table. Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
Awesome.